Hi everybody, welcome to the studio. Come on in and welcome to another episode of Exploring Photography right here on Adorama TV. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about working in a professional studio for the very first time. Now maybe you've worked in a home studio or a friend's studio, but it's a little bit different when you actually rent a professional studio. So I want to walk you through the workflow, the steps that are involved from start to finish, including the shoot, everything about working in a professional studio. And the very first step before you do anything is to get into the studio and to see what's available and to make sure you understand the pricing structure. So we are in Sinfin Studios in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's a beautiful studio, and when we look around we can see that we have some Electron lights, we've got some softboxes up here, we've got these guys right around here, we've got some background paper right here, some Savage paper that is available to us. But the important thing to understand, and when you sign your contract for your rental studio, is to make sure that the rental price includes the gear, and if not, you'll probably have to rent each one of these items individually. Now in some studios that might not be clear, and as soon as you grab a light and start working with it, they'll start adding charges, and when you check out at the end of the day, you might have a bill that you didn't expect. So it's very important that when you look around and see all the stuff, that you talk to the studio manager and understand if that's included or if it's extra. It's very, very important. This is all included, so we're going to be using some stuff today. We'll get to that when we actually do the shoot, but let's look at some other things in the studio. We've got a whiteboard here, which is really great for jotting down notes and making sure that you keep track of crew and lunch times and shot lists, all that kind of stuff. Over here we have an area for craft services. So it's important that you feed and hydrate the crew and the models and stuff. So we'll have some tea, we've got some snacks here, water, etc. And so you want to have that. So make sure that that's all prepared before the day shoots. This is sort of a common area here for people to hang out and sit. So if they're not working, if you've got crew and assistants and they're not actually helping, it's a place. Usually most studios have these for people to hang out. The other thing that we have are wardrobe racks. And so our model is going to be showing up here in a little bit, but when they do their hair and makeup and get everything ready, we have an area for the model, and that's really important. So we have that. And then the other thing that's really important to make sure in a studio is where the changing area is. And so we have these changing areas for our model right here. Usually it's either a bathroom or a dedicated changing area or someplace, but make sure you know where that is so that there's a place that somebody can go and they're safe and they can change everything and come out and show you different looks and all that kind of stuff. And speaking of models, that's the second thing we want to do is work with our model, make sure that everything is level set. So we'll get to that next. Well, this is Belen, and she is going to be our model for the day. Now, one of the things that's very important when you're shooting in a studio and you're doing a photo shoot is to understand, is this for the model or is this for you? And so if the model is paying you, she gets to call the shots on what you're shooting and the looks and all that kind of stuff. But if you're paying the model, it's up to you to determine all of that stuff. And if you're not sure, you're going to have disaster. So make sure that you figure out what you're doing before you get into the studio, or else you're going to have missed expectations. So today, this is for me for a video, and so I get to call the shots. Now the next thing we want to do is to make sure everything is above board and legal and everybody understands who's paying who and all of those things. And so the model release is something that you absolutely need to have. I'm using Easy Release on the iPad. We've done an iPad review of that a few years ago on Adorama TV. You can check that out. So we're using this to make sure that we are both in sync about how much we're paying, how long the photo shoot is, all of those things before we get started. At the end of the shoot, we'll have Belen sign this. Now the reason that she's going to sign it at the end is because in this model release it says things like she did everything without coercion and it was all above board, etc. And so do you do that at the end? Because if you coerce the model or something goes wrong, you don't get a model release signed. So make sure you have that. Everything is agreed upon beforehand, and then at the end of the shoot, get your model release signed so everything is legal and above board. Now the other thing that we need to do is, we've already discussed some of the things that we're going to be shooting today, but we need to look at wardrobe. And so over here, let's take a look at how we've set this up. So Belen has actually set out all of her different options, and so we can go through here. I can look at the different shirts, I can look at the different outfits, the sweaters, the jackets, all of that kind of stuff. And then once we have that decided, then Belen is actually going to do her hair and makeup and everything and make sure that is good to go. So maybe I want to have darker eyes or curly hair or something like that. So we'll look at the wardrobe, we'll discuss all that, we'll make sure it's all good, and then as she's doing that, it's going to take a little while. Sometimes it can take up to an hour if you have a hair and makeup artist. And so while that's going on, I need to go to the next step, which is getting the studio set. While Belen is getting her hair and makeup and everything all situated, my job is to set up the studio, which I've already done. I already know that I want to do a basic clamshell light to start with, so I've set that all up. Now, one of the things that I discovered as I was setting up is we have this Elinchrom light that's available. It's one of the rental pieces of equipment, but this softbox here, for some reason the speed ring is messed up, and so I can't get it to go horizontal. It won't rotate. We've tried all kinds of things. This won't mount the way I want it to get the catch lights that I want with the clamshell light. And so I'm not going to be using that. Instead, I've used my Profoto light that's all set up here. That's one of the things that you might run into when you have a rental studio, is that the gear isn't exactly what you expect, so you just have to sort of roll with the punches. The other thing that's very important before you start shooting is a pre-flight checklist to make sure that your camera is ready to go. And so I always walk through my camera and check several things. The first thing, I check to make sure my ISO is set to the base ISO, which is 200 on this camera. So if you're out shooting maybe the night before or something and you forget, you might try shooting and your ISO is set to 3200 or 6400 and things aren't working. That can be really confusing. So you make sure that's all set. Make sure that you have a clean card that's ready to go. Make sure that your lens is clean, it's all set to go, and that your battery is fully charged. Just walk through your camera start to finish and make sure everything's ready to go so you don't have unexpected problems when you start shooting. So I'm ready to go. The lighting is ready to go. The next thing we need to do is bring on our model and actually do our shoot. Okay, the next step, what we're doing here is we've shot a little bit with our first lighting setup, and what I want to do is show Belen sort of the post-production that I'm thinking through. So I'm not doing my post-production now, but I've done some very, very quick adjustments. I've done some white balance adjustments. I've added a radial filter, a little bit of a vignette. I've changed some of the tonality of this and the color, just so we can get sort of a feeling of what this is going to look like when I have all of that post-production finished, and so she can sort of understand what it's going to look like, and it will help with her posing. So we're just sort of going through here. We're looking at the poses that work, the ones that don't work, the things that I like, and so it sort of helps us give a visual representation of the end product, because just right out of camera they don't look exactly the way I want them to be looking. So I'm doing something really quick, showing Belen, and she can go, oh, now I understand what's in your head, instead of me just trying to explain it to her. So we're going to look through here, and we're going to choose a few of the winners, and then we'll go on and shoot a little bit more. All right, now that we've done some basic looks, what I'm doing now is Belen and I are going through one by one these photos, and just a really fast, quick pass. If there's something that we like this shot I really like, I'm hitting P to pick, and then that way when I get to do all my post-production, I've already sorted through the winners, and then I can go through and choose the ones from the winners of the studio, and then choose like the best 2 or 3 of the shot. But at least this way, Belen gets to look at them and say, you know, that one I like, that one absolutely no, don't choose that, etc. And so we're both sort of on the same page as to which images we like, and it's really fast, and it's something that I like to do as much as possible in the studio with either the model or the client. Well, our photo shoot went fantastic. The last thing that we need to do is have a signed model release. Now to do that, Belen has to read and sign the model release, but we also need a witness. So Nicholas has been helping me behind the scenes all day, and so he is going to be our witness. So we'll just go through here, and Belen has already read this, and so she's going to sign that. I love easy release because you're allowed to just use an iPad like this, and so no matter where you go, you can have everything signed. And so then Nicholas is also going to sign this, and then once it's finished with easy release, one of the things that I love is it's automatically going to email everybody that model release. And so we are done. So the last thing I need to do is thank Nicholas for helping behind the scenes. Thank you, Belen, for being a fantastic model. Those are the steps involved in your very first studio shoot. Make sure you get in there, check everything out, set up for the shoot, pick out all the looks and everything with your model, have a fantastic shoot, make sure you take care of all the legal requirements, and then do your post-production after you're done. Send those out to your model or your client or whoever you've been working for. That's it. Repeat as many times as you possibly can and have a fantastic career. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Exploring Photography. Don't forget to subscribe to Adorama TV. It's absolutely free, so do it today. Thanks again for joining me. I will see you again next time.